Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of Games My Mom Found. We're coming at you today on March 3rd, 2019. My name is Mike Albertin, and who's with me tonight?
I'm DJ Copland.
And I'm Stuart Hughes.
All right, you can see we got another three-man show. DJ, if you want to take it away and let them know what wonderful game you made us play this week.
Yes, I forced us all to play Banjo Kazooie.
Us cementing a special spot in hell for you.
Oh, no, come on. It's not that bad. See, okay, here's the thing. I love this game. I love this genre. And it's sort of had a little bit of a resurgence in recent years, sort of the collectathon platformer genre, but not really to the extent where it's like back in the mainstream by any means. And that's a shame because I love this genre and this game does probably the most perfect version of it. Now, it has a lot of issues, but the stuff it does right, it does really, really, really right. And I thought about it. I'm like, I can't really call myself like an advocate of this game. I can't really call myself an advocate of this genre. And I know this sounds a little bit gatekeepery, but I can't really call myself an advocate of this genre without having beaten it. Because I played this game. I never beat it. I never had an N64. All I wanted when I was a kid, when I was like 5, 6 years old, was an N64. And my parents got me a PS1. So there you go.
I picked the better one.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the rest of us were playing Spyro and having fun.
I played Spyro. I enjoyed it. It's not even half as good as this game. Like, just being totally blunt, totally brutally honest. Banjo-Kazooie is by far the superior game.
I don't know. I mean, I did enjoy Banjo-Kazooie. Like, for the most part, I had fun with this game. And after talking a little bit before the show and finding out the changes they made in the Xbox Live Arcade version,
yeah,
I'm happy I wasn't playing on N64.
Yeah, so here's what I did. I was so excited to finally beat Banjo-Kazooie. I found a cheap N64 on eBay. I ordered it. I ordered a real copy of the game because I wanted the full, real experience. And I knew what I was getting myself into, and I didn't care. I did it anyway.
You just have to put the game through like a leaf blower first to get to run.
64 runs better than NES games.
It's true.
The other thing is I don't have an Xbox, so I couldn't even play the Xbox version if I wanted to, and I did want to, because, like Mike said, it has a bunch of improvements that vastly improve the experience of playing this game.
Had I known that, I didn't realize there was a difference between the two versions. I thought it was just like a port, and so I played the 64 version, not realizing that I could have just went out and bought Banjo-Kazooie for my fucking Xbox and played it on a better system.
Yep, you made a mistake.
What I couldn't believe is I didn't know that because, like, in this game, you got to collect tons of crap. And in the Xbox Live Arcade version, if you die, no big deal. You still keep whatever you got. I mean, there were notes that I would swim down, get the note, and just die and be like, well, it doesn't matter. I got extra lives.
Yeah.
But in your version...
Not so in the N64 version. Notes and Jinjos do not carry over between deaths, and they don't carry over once you leave a level. So if you get 80 notes out of 100 and then you die, that's it.
Yep.
That's your score. Your note score is 80. If you want to get to 100 notes, you have to start from 0.
Which, as we mentioned before recording, what happened to me was there's a level where there's the final level. I will say, it was so stressful. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Click Clock Woods is it's just fucking hell. But I mean, like, it's a really interesting concept of you're on one level that's split into 4 parts, and each fourth of the level that you go to is like that same level in a different time period. So you'd put you'd like plant a seed in spring, and by summer, and if you keep like going back and tending to it in summer and fall, it becomes like this big flower, and you get a jiggy at the top of it, which is like the main puzzle piece that you need.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of stars in a 3D Mario game.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so the level is set up in fourths, and you have to run across the center to get to the other levels. However, I forgot that the teleporter back to the hub world was in the center, and I ran over it and had to go back to the hub world and had to come back into the fucking level, having lost all my progress, and start over from scratch.
Yep.
And I'm not gonna lie, I was talking to somebody on Discord when I was doing that, and I just started screaming. They're like, "What?" I was like, "I don't know if I'm gonna finish this game. Like, this is this is like the most demoralized I've been."
I will say this game is the most, out of all the games we've played so far, this game is the most, like, beating this game is the most satisfied I've been beating a game for this podcast thus far. Yeah. It's also the most frustrated I've been. I screamed at my TV multiple times during this game, mostly during Rusty Bucket Bay.
I just cursed your name. Yeah. I did. When I beat the game, I'm like, fuck you, DJ.
I literally did I did the exact same thing. At one point, I was just like, God damn it, GJ. This like, literally yelling.
This is what you get for making me play Silent Hill.
Oh,
that was... point that somebody else was like, who's DJ? And why are you mad at him? Like, you'll fucking find out.
He's the monster that made us play this.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I told you I would get my revenge, and here it is.
I had none of that satisfaction because I like to 100% games. Okay. I have a problem where I like if I'm playing a game and I know that I haven't gotten everything, I'm gonna go back in at some point and I'm gonna try to get everything. Some games it's really fun. Like Tomb Raider is built just all the Tomb Raider games are built superbly well, where 100%ing those games doesn't feel like a chore. Like everything's built in such a way of, oh, you're getting this really good lore, or there's these tombs you have to go to that will give you like weapon upgrades, so you might as well get everything while you're in there. This game was like, well, first of all, there's a credit sequence, and then after the credit sequence is the main boss fight, and then there's a post-credits boss fight, another credit sequence, where it just shows you all the characters from the game, and then it shows you after that Banjo and Kazooie sitting on a beach where Mumbo Jumbo comes down and shows you a picture of the things in the other game, and also points out that, oh yeah, there's collectibles in this game that you might have seen but you couldn't get, so you have to go back and continue playing to get those.
Are you talking about the stupid eggs?
Like the key and the eggs, yeah. And I was like,
what I didn't do that.
Do those do? And I looked up and they're like, oh, they're literally nothing. They're just for collectors. And I was like, fuck you, video game.
Well, no. See, this is something, this was a feature that had to be taken out of the next game, which was called Stop and Swap. And the idea was you would collect these, I think it's six different colored eggs and this ice key. And then when you got the sequel, what you would do is you would put your Banjo Kazooie cartridge in your N64 and you would start playing it. And then what you would do is you would, with the system powered on, rip the cartridge out and then very quickly put in Banjo-Tooie. And because of the way the N64 worked, it would actually sort of retain memory of the first game for about 10 seconds after you took it out.
So it was literally tricking the system.
Right. Yeah. And then that data would just transfer right over into the sequel.
Can you imagine if you had to do that with like Mass Effect? You just eject the disc and throw the other disc in.
But the thing is, after they did this, I think a new version of the N64 came out, or they just sort of changed the manufacturing. Like they just something changed. And now the memory would only be retained for like a second. And so now they couldn't do it. So that stuff is all absent in the sequel now. But it got put back in for the Xbox versions. So, Mike, if you had actually gotten all the jiggies, you would have been able to do that.
Yeah, I did not want to. I got 95 of them, I think. And I had
That's
enough.
A good number.
Especially that one that you have to go in the engine of the ship. You got to hit the two fans. Then you have 60 seconds. I was like, nope, not happening.
Yep.
I actually didn't have trouble with that one. The one that gave me trouble was like, just all the stuff on Click Clock Woods just gave me so much trouble because I just wasn't getting it. Like I wasn't getting. There's a hole in the ground, and I was like, I can't ground pound through it. I don't know what this is. And finally,
if there's a random opening in the ground, you just poop eggs into it.
Yeah,
like that's just a rule of this game.
Like the game kept trying to force that logic into me, and for whatever reason, my brain never put together like, oh, you should just put eggs in it because that's not how eggs work. Like there's a pail.
Yeah. You use the eggs in so many ways in this game that just makes no actual sense.
Yeah.
Like where you go up to this like there's this in Gobi's Valley. There's this big sphinx, and if you get up in front of its face and you talk to it, it's like, oh, my nose is stuffy.
Yeah. Well, and how do you
unstuff his nose? You shoot eggs into it.
That makes sense.
Thereby further stuffing his nose.
Well, even like on Treasure Trove Cove, which is so annoying to say.
I like Treasure Trove Cove.
I like Treasure Trove Cove, but Treasure Trove Cove has a problem where you find a like pirate, Captain Blubber, I think his name is,
who's from Donkey Kong Country 2. He looks like a reject from Donkey Kong Country 2, yeah.
Who's a humanoid animal that exists.
Designers.
Yeah. A humanoid animal like Banjo that exists in the world, even though there's also animals that are more animal than human, which is really confusing. There's no logic to what's going on.
Look, man, this shit goes back to Goofy and Pluto.
There's a living toilet that sucks you down its pipe and shits you out.
Yep.
Literally. That's
I like that part.
Yeah. That was kind of endearing.
Oh yeah, that's a huge section of the humor of this game. Is just like, what can we slap googly eyes on and give a stupid voice?
Yeah.
But they do it with literally everything.
Like, you go to Treasure Trove Cove and you find the pirate, and he tells you he needs his gold. And so that's kind of what you learn, that there are characters in the game that have lost things. You have to go collect and bring it to them.
Yep.
So there's also like a bucket, a sentient bucket in Treasure Trove Cove. And if you talk to it, it goes, oh, I need pebbles. It specifically says, I need pebbles to stop the leaks in this bucket. And you're like, okay, I've got to go find pebbles now. At no point could I find pebbles anywhere on this fucking map, and I looked fucking everywhere. And finally I looked it up, and I was like, yeah, you just drop eggs in the bucket. I'm like, eggs aren't pebbles. It asked for pebbles.
I had a guide, so I didn't have this problem, but I was confused. I remember I did it. I'm like, okay, so I need pebbles. I'm like, what do I do? And then they're like, oh, shoot eggs in them. And then I tried to shoot eggs. I'm like, well, he doesn't take the eggs. And I had to watch a video where he shit out the eggs. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
The logic.
I just knew what to do because I've played the game before.
There's like a complete lack of logic within this game, and I get that that's part of it. It's kind of, I mean, it is in the same vein as like Conkers, where it's like Conker's Bad Fur Day, where it's like almost a joke game. Like I got to the end and I felt like they were like, aha, like we tricked you. You played our game, and I was like, oh well, fuck you. But
Stuart, when do you want to play Conkers?
I will. I said it. You will have to pay me to play that game. I do not want to play that.
I don't either. After playing through this, much as I did enjoy it, I'm like, I've seen Conkers. I'm like,
it's rough.
I don't think that's
just garbage.
We should say this game was made by Rare, as I'm sure most people know, and did come out in 1998 for Nintendo 64, and then didn't get re-released until 2008, so 10 years later for the Xbox 360.
I feel like we should talk about Rare at some point. Just Rare is such a weird company.
Yeah.
Like, I guess they're like, I always look it up because I'm always confused by the games they make. And I guess their like main mission statement is they want to make games that are kind of more creative and not necessarily AAA games, but like smaller titles that are just fun to play for some people, which I guess Banjo Kazooie is fun to play for some people. Well, yeah, they make games like Battletoads, which is getting a new game coming out next year, I believe.
Not fun for anybody.
Oh my god!
And then like Ken Griffey Jr.'s winning run. It's just like the weirdest games list. Like Jetpack Refueled.
Oh, yeah. They're jacks of all trades. You know, they made GoldenEye, they made Perfect Dark, they made Killer Instinct, which is a fighting game.
Yeah, they made GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, which basically defined first-person shooters.
Yep.
Yeah. And then King Griffey Jr.'s. It's like, okay, why is that on this list?
They made Diddy Kong Racing, another really good 64 game during that same time.
Yep.
Just a bunch of just a ton of licensed games too, or not necessarily licensed games, but like very specific. Like I was looking it up, and they made like Ivan Iron Man Students Super Off Road, and that's such a specific game. I wouldn't expect I wouldn't expect the same people who made GoldenEye to make that.
No, I mean, I didn't know they did that. I also didn't know they did Killer Instinct, it looks like.
Yeah, and Jet Force Gemini.
I knew about Jet Force Gemini just because it's on the Rare Replay copy that I have.
And Viva Pinata, which is a good game.
Hey, I did
All
enjoy
right,
this.
come on now.
This man more fun than Fallout.
I will say,
Oh,
there
yeah.
are parts of Banjo Kazooie that I genuinely enjoyed. Like, the music was great. The music,
The music
was
is
also
fantastic in this game.
weird because all the music sounds like it all sounds like derivative of other real music, and it's like there were times where I just stopped playing the game and I was listening to the music, just trying to figure out what song it sounded like.
That's probably a good thing though, because then you have the music in your brain for that wonderful furnace fun.
Oh yeah, the game, the before the boss fight, the last thing that happens before the credits of the game is you do like a trivia section asking you about everything in the game.
Which
I died.
I'm gonna jump out here and defend the furnace fun. It's completely out of left field and unexpected, and it's just so wacky and fun.
I gotta say, I wasn't expecting it, and
Yeah.
I actually found myself really like interested in the concept of it, and I enjoyed like the puzzles too, because you find it kind of sets you up for that too, because you find Brintilda all over.
You find Brintilda, and she tells you all these weird, specific facts about Grunty. It's like, oh, she brushes her teeth with moldy cheese-flavored toothpaste, and oh, her nickname in high school was Gorilla Butt. And you're like, what is any of this? And then you realize, you get asked questions at the end where you need those answers.
Under her dress, she wears a flea circus, whatever that is.
A flea circus. It's you can buy those. They're like ant farms.
Oh, okay.
I didn't talk to her. I only talked to her once, and then I never talked to her again, and I kind of regretted that. I was able to guess most of them though.
Well, I wrote down everything she said to me, and then I found the let's see here, because it came in sets of threes: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I found the 8th Brintilda, and I was like, I am writing down so fucking much, and I don't know if this is actually coming in handy or if this is all just like a weird trivia section.
It's coming in handy.
Yeah, it's what I wrote down came in handy for sure. But it's not too hard to guess. It's basically like, what's the most middle school? Like, what would you think is the funniest when you were 10?
Exactly, and that's this game's entire sense of humor. I like that, and that whole trivia section. Honestly, if you've played through the whole game and you've paid a moderate amount of attention, you're not going to have too much trouble with it. Really, the only troublesome part is those timed challenges.
Those are hard.
Yeah, which is basically all the time challenges from the game. But
like slightly harder and with less time.
I didn't realize that there's a crocodile one where you have to eat like worms living in a giant crocodile's tongue.
They're called yumblies, Stu.
Yumblies.
Right.
Well, I didn't want to say the word because it's dumb. You have to eat yumblies, which are like worms, like living parasites in this giant crocodile's tongue. And you're in there as a tiny crocodile with another crocodile, and you have to eat more yumblies than him.
Hey, you forgot his name,
and
Mr. Vile.
Mr. Vile.
You have to do
the greediest crocodile to ever exist.
You have to do it.
You have to.
You have to do it 3 times in a row. Each time it's harder. And if you fail, he takes 2 health from you.
Yeah.
And this was the only Jiggy in the game I didn't get. Because I tried so many times, and eventually I was just like, no, fuck this.
I beat him, and I was like, thank God I never have to do that again. And the trivia section came, and I had to do it again, but harder.
Fortunately, I never got that one for the trivia section.
Yeah, I think you can skip it. I went through and I did all the trivia. I filled out the board.
Oh my God, you are insane.
Because I found it really fun. Like, I remember I retain like dumb stuff really well for some reason, and so I remember like all the characters' names from the game, and like
I had no trouble with any of that either.
The music, like the music cues of what level was it, like where did you hear this song? I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that stuff is all really that stuff is legitimately fun.
That I did like. I didn't like it when it was
like
asked. Keep going.
I was gonna say the screenshots I thought were really, really fun. Where it was like a picture from a level taken at a really odd angle.
They really tried to trick you on those, and if you pay close enough attention, you can outsmart them.
Yeah,
you can be like, I see what you're trying to do there.
Yeah, it'll be like there's one that's taken from the Ghost Mansion area.
Yeah.
The Mad Mansion? Mad something's mansion?
Mad Monster Mansion.
Mad Monster Mansion. But it's a picture of a box on the mansion really close up, and so it's like this really like sepia tone image. And if you're not paying close attention, you're like, oh, that's the desert level because it's yellow. But like, there's a little logo for the mansion on the side. You're like, oh, okay. It's trying to trick me.
You tricky dickies. Yep.
There was one I got that was really cool of Clanker the whale, who's a steampunk metallic whale.
I think he's a shark, not a whale. He has teeth.
No, he's a whale.
No, he's
you're talking about Clanker. Okay, I was
Clanker,
like, what? It took a second, and I clicked.
He's a whale. Well, according to the game, he's a whale because another trivia section was asking me about what was the whale.
That did not look like a whale to me, but I'll go.
Yeah,
okay.
He's a shark.
It has a blowhole though.
Dolphins have blowholes. They also have teeth. It's
So
probably an orca.
Well, orcas are whales.
No, orcas are dolphins.
Orcas are whales.
Orcas are not whales.
They're called orca whales.
Orcas are cetaceans.
I'm looking this up.
By the way, they're called killer whales because they got a nickname that was their original nickname was whale killers because they kill whales, and then at some point it just got switched around.
Is a toothed whale.
It's not a whale.
It does belong to the dolphin family, but it is labeled. It is also called a toothed
whale.
Well, according to this, all whales possessing teeth, such as beaked whales and sperm whales. I didn't know sperm whales had teeth. That's interesting. They all belong to the Odontoceti system.
I bet our listeners are loving this.
Yeah, science talk.
We weren't expecting to get a whale lesson while you're listening to our podcast.
It is a whale, but it's
I'm still calling him an orca.
Hold on, it is a whale. It's a very specific kind of whale though that belongs to the dolphin family.
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
I like Clanker.
Science proves no one's right.
Clanker, I did not like having to swim down to where the chain was and go through it. I could not get the bubble. I could never get the bubbles. I had to go down, swim through it.
There are certain parts in this game where just you have to judge distance of these assets that are literally just 2D sprites, and it's impossible to tell how far away they are.
Oh, swimming!
It's impossible to. Yeah, and swimming is a whole other layer on top.
How I did that was I swam down, got the key, got one bubble, and went back up, and I went back down and just got like half the notes and the Jinjo.
Yeah.
Which I looked up, and the wiki, unfortunately, I don't know if this was like a translation thing. The wiki calls them Jingos, which is a very different word.
That is not what they are. They're Jinjos.
That's a derogatory term for patriots.
Yep.
And so I read Jingo on the wiki, and I was like, I don't get how these guys are like Jingos. I don't get like you don't pick them up, and they don't go like death to Gruntilda, preserve. Like they're not like uber fascists. I was like, what is going on with this like weird story? And finally, I found out it was just a weird typo that exists on the wiki in multiple places.
It is a weird story. Like, why does he live right next to the villain? Like, hey, the evil witch is over there, about up the hill from my house.
Not only does he live right next to the villain, but his sister gets kidnapped by the witch, and they have to go through this whole rigmarole of who could have taken her? It's like you live literally under the shadow of a mountain shaped like a witch, like. With flames coming out the fucking eyes, and the witch, like, you just never pay attention.
Yeah.
It's a weird game.
Yeah, it is.
It's odd. This game has no logic, and you can tell that's on purpose.
It is on purpose.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Here's the weird thing about this game is that, yes, it takes place in a completely illogical world, but at the same time, it has one of the best, most richly realized settings in a 3D platformer.
Well, I kept likening it to, like, in my head, I was thinking, like, what is this game? I mean, it's a platformer game from, the late 90s, early 2000s, so they all get a little bit samey after a while, sorry to say.
It's a meaner version of Mario 64.
And I was like, this game feels like if Jak and Daxter cut out the opening sequence and you had no idea what was going on.
I mean, Jak and Daxter was, I think, overtly based on this game.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Because this game made me want to play Jak and Daxter a lot. Like, I might have to like as quickly as I can force my way through the next game and just play Jack and Daxter this week at some point. I really want to play.
You know what? That's something we should play for the podcast.
We should, because that game is so good. It is a little long though.
Yeah, we can make it work.
It's not too long.
It's not too bad. It's just it's really.
I mean, it's not going to be anywhere near as frustrating as this.
Well, it is Jack and Daxter. You don't know that.
I do know that because it's not Jack 2.
That's true. I love Jack 2, and Jack 2
is the bastard. Jack 2 was the one where they were like, oh, you know what? We're making this game for grown-ups now. It has to be really fucking hard.
As much as I love Jack 2, that game has some ridiculously just...
Jack 2 is straight up bullshit in some
time
parts.
trials, the getting off the dock at that one section in Jack 2.
Oh my God.
Impossible.
Did anyone else have as much trouble as me with that symbols minigame?
Let's just talk about Jack 2.
I got stuck on that shit for years. Literally years.
Which symbols minigame?
With the symbols are coming out of the pot with the fucking monkey bird, and you have to hit the buttons. I legitimately could not get past that for literally years of my life.
In Banjo?
In Jack 2.
I forgot which game we were talking about, and I was like I'm trying to think of all of Jack 2 and all of Banjo Kazooie in my head. Problem is, there's such similar games that you could say, remember that weird monkey thing? It's like,
Jack 2 is not similar to Banjo Kazooie. Jack 2 is a GTA clone.
In some ways, it still has its platforming roots.
It somewhat.
It has
all the levels are way more linear, and they added all these other elements. Like it's much more a third-person shooter in a lot of ways, even though the gunplay is not that great.
I really enjoyed that. We're just going to end up talking about Jack 2.
I think we should add that to the list at some point at this
point. No, we shouldn't.
We absolutely should.
None of us will be able to beat it.
I'll be able to beat it. I love Jack 2 so much.
No, don't you dare do that to
even
me.
If I'm angry at myself, I'll force my way through it.
This podcast should be renamed to the Torture Podcast. That's what we're trying to do ourselves. The video game torture.
You dare put Jack 2 on the list. I will quit.
Okay, we'll put Jack 2 on the list, but I have to play Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts.
Hey, I want to play Nuts and Bolts someday.
Nuts and Bolts. I don't think Nuts and Bolts is as like. Nuts and Bolts is still a modern game in a lot of ways. It doesn't have a lot of the annoyances of this one.
Banjo-Tooie is harder than this one.
Banjo-Tooie is a bitch.
Well, here's what I'll say. If we play Banjo-Tooie, then we're playing Jack 2.
Here's the thing. All right.
That's the trade-off.
Bringing up Banjo-Tooie, that actually brings up something I want to talk about with this game, with regards to this game, which is the level design. And the level design is quite good in this game. But it got steadily worse in every 3D platformer Rare made after this. And not just Rare, the guys from Rare who made this. And I know why. It's because basically after this game, they decided they just wanted to make their levels bigger. And
I really like that
they became a lot more difficult to navigate.
Because the levels in this game were very complex, especially
they
were increasingly
complex, and they are just on the edge of being really difficult to navigate. But the fact that they're relatively compact and the fact that they are also relatively centralized completely it makes it okay. Like this game,
very small levels.
This game makes use of a technique that I think any good 3D platformer should use, which is called weenies. So this is it's a general architecture concept, actually, not just a video game design concept. And actually, it first came into use with reference to amusement parks. This was actually a term coined by Walt Disney when he was designing the first Disneyland. And to put it simply, weenies are big central landmarks. For example, Cinderella's castle.
I'm reading about them now. This calls it visual magnets. That makes sense.
Yeah. So every level in this game pretty much has them.
Yeah.
You have
so no matter where you are, you'll be able to know where you are based on.
You have a bunch. You have
central objects.
Few of them. Yeah, you have a few of them in each level. In fact, you have the tower. You have the termite tower in Mumbo's Mountain. You also have that central little platform that the bull runs around. You have Mumbo's hut. You have the totem pole. You have Conga's tree. You have stuff in every corner of that level that are very recognizable landmarks that you can orient yourself by. So you're like, oh, okay, I want to go over there. That's where the big palm tree is.
Well, even like my favorite level in this was Rusty something.
Rusty Bucket Bay.
Rusty Bucket Bay.
How was that your favorite?
That was what I just really enjoy. Like, I didn't necessarily enjoy the gameplay of that level.
Those 2 jiggies in the engine room make it just the most frustrating thing in the world.
I had no trouble with those.
Okay. Well,
how?
We had 2 very different experiences.
Yeah.
I skipped one. I just said, screw that second one. I'm like, I'm leaving.
The difficulty I had was that
was my nickname for this level. My nickname for this level was Rusty Fuck It Bay.
I really enjoyed that level.
Fuck it.
The only problem I had on that level was that I forgot the move where you hold Z and press B and you do like the forward charge. I forgot that move because I never used it because it's in my mind it was just useless compared to like every other move.
Like in other levels, you have to use it to open doors.
Or you can shoot an egg at the door.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
I thought that the eggs, because at that point in the game I was like, well, eggs are used for everything, so eggs must be how you open doors. So I didn't realize that you didn't have to waste eggs to open a door, and so I was just using eggs for everything. And I got to the level and I was like, I can't press the button to drop the TNT on the ship. I don't know how to press this button. So I couldn't get get into the ship and I couldn't raise the cage. And finally I was like, I have to look it up. And I looked it up and they were like, oh yeah, you do the charge attack. I was like, what? Charge attack? And it's like one of the first things you learn, but I never used it, so I forgot it immediately.
This game had so many abilities. Like there was a lot of stuff you could do in this game. That I did like.
There's a ton of stuff to it's a very smartly arranged control setup, especially with the fact that on this controller you can never reach the L button or the D-pad.
Yeah. So the L button is just nothing goes there, nothing goes on the D-pad.
Nothing goes there, nothing goes on the D-pad. So everything is on the face buttons, the C buttons, the R button, and the Z button. Like, that's the entire control scheme. Mm-hmm. And they did a really good job of making everything fit. And not only that, but in the sequel, in Banjo-Tooie, that game is very notable for not what's sometimes called Metroiding the main characters, right? Just completely taking away all of their moves and making them grind them all up from scratch. Right. Banjo-Tooie doesn't do that.
Assassin's Creed 1 is guilty of that.
In Banjo-Tooie, you keep all of your moves from Banjo Kazooie, and then you get like a dozen more moves on top of that, and it all still fits. It's
I remember,
really impressive.
I heard about that when Banjo-Tooie came out, and that made me want to get Banjo-Tooie, even though I had not played Kazooie. And I was like, I should play those games. And I wish I did, because now I would have known what the hell I was doing this time.
Yeah. It's rough if you're going in for the first time and you don't know what's going on.
Yeah. There was a lot of having to look up, I don't get what I'm supposed to be doing here. Or just some basic stuff that I just it was total, my mind has just gone totally blank on. Like, the move was a good example, but just some stuff was like, I know that there's an object in this area that I can interact with. I just don't know how. Yeah. Like, it's kind of unclear what objects the B button will work on and what objects it won't work on.
Like, how do you mean? Like
how you call out bottles by hitting B.
Right.
On the on his molehills, and you have to hit B sometimes to there's other objects in the game you have to interact with by hitting B. It's very rare. But then other stuff is just hit, and it's okay, but I can't tell what I'm supposed to just hit and what I'm supposed to hit B on. It's not a big thing. It's just a small thing that I was like I'm not quite getting it, and occasionally I'd be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. That
makes no sense to me because B is the hit button. So what's even the difference?
Or not hit. It was just some stuff was interacting weird for me. That might have just been my experience, but
yeah,
I was it was just one of those tiny. It was a small flaw in an otherwise enjoyable game.
I didn't know you were talking about it first.
This is. That describes this game to a T. It's an enjoyable game with a lot of small flaws and a couple big flaws.
Flaws.
Yeah.
Mainly how fucking difficult some shit is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm gonna be swearing a lot because this game
last week you were like, last week were you like, oh, thank God, we're playing an easy game next week, and I was like,
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I figured that
that?
this was gonna be. I was like, I know I'm gonna have trouble because it's a platformer. But I was like, oh, it'll be like Spyro, and it'll just be like an easier platformer game.
Yeah.
Well, that's to say Spyro. Spyro has some hard shit in it, but
this game makes you work for it, man.
Yeah.
This game makes you fucking work for it. Like, not only that, if here's what really strikes me about this game, and it was something I hadn't really thought of before. If you look at Mario 64, which this game was obviously modeled after, that game has a total 120 stars, but you only need 70 of them to fight Bowser. You can beat the game with only 70 stars. In this game, there are 100 jiggies, and you need, 94 of them?
94 to get to Gunfilda.
That's an incredibly small margin.
Yeah.
They force you to do everything.
And this game doesn't tell you what you're missing unless you know. Like, it'll tell you the world, okay, maybe you only have 6 in this row, but you won't know which ones. Like Mario 64 will tell you, oh, you're missing this star, you're missing this star.
Well, here's the thing.
But it's like you have to debate. It's like, do I want to come back here and do this again and try to figure it out, or do I want to just do it now with the expectation that I might miss one later and I'm just gonna give up on that one? It's kind of like
that's
if I
basically the way I played
this, it. Yeah, I was like, if I 100% this level, because I tried to, I legitimately tried to 100% this game, and I got damn close. I got really close.
Me too. Yeah,
and that's impressive.
I was like,
I do not recommend that anyone try to 100% this game in a week, much less the N64 version. Do not do that to yourself. God, for God's sake, don't
I'm
do
considering it. I'm considering it a great achievement that I got like 96% in 3 days.
Yeah. I had
damn.
Well, and see, that's what the game considers it. Like, to get the ultimate unlockable, you don't even need every jiggy. You only need 98 jiggies and 882 notes, which is almost everything, but not everything. Because this game knows that nobody can be nobody with any modicum of sanity can be reasonably expected to get everything in a reasonable amount of time without like literally destroying themselves.
And then you find out that the game has like a cheat book in it called Cheeto, and you can get more like stuff in the game. And I was like, do I have to take off a percentage? Do I have to consider less of a completion percentage having not done Cheeto and like all that stuff? I don't know, because
it's just cheats. It's literally just like.
But it's interesting because you have to work for the cheats.
Yeah,
that is something easy. I really like about this game.
It's kind of like
it sort of gamified something that was an aspect of a lot of games at the time it came out, which was, you would look in magazines and there would be a list of cheat codes.
Yeah, and this
one, but they just decided, you know what? Let's skip the middleman. Let's just put that all in the game and make it another secret you have to go find. And I actually really like that.
I think
really cool.
Enter the Matrix did that, the GameCube game, and I thought that was like one of the coolest parts about that game was by beating the game and like unlocking certain challenges, you got cheats and you could go back and like, you did this thing, so now you can get infinite ammo if you go put the cheat code in. Now, like the game tells you, it's not something you have to look up on your own. I was like, I always thought that was really cool of having the cheats in the game. I had no idea Banjo Kazooie did that.
Yep.
And also how you put cheats in is really interesting too.
Oh, it's annoying though, but
it is annoying, but it's off of a puzzle that you complete earlier in the game where you have to spell out Banjo Kazooie. It's this giant letter like checkerboard, and you have to spell it out. And I was like, oh, that was kind of an interesting puzzle. It was like very basic. And then I didn't realize I was like, oh, they just threw in extra letters to like trip you up a little bit. Like there's a G in there that's unnecessary. Maybe just like, oh, you spelled Banjo Kazooie wrong, even though it's written on the wall behind you. I didn't realize that. Oh, that's in there because you can go back to that puzzle later, and that's how you type out the cheat codes by ground down the code. I was like, that is really cool.
It is really cool.
None of those cheats were released until way later. People found out about them. They didn't tell anybody when the game first came out or anything. That was kind of
presumably you could find. Wait, when was Cheeto added to the game, or is he just in the game from the beginning?
Oh yeah, no, he was. No, Stuart, he was added 2 months later as DLC.
hold on. I swear to God, there was something you had to do for like old, I want to say NES games where you could take it back to the store. It was like a very early form of DLC for some games.
No, I don't think this was one of those.
Okay. That's why I was like, was that in the game or was that one of those weird things that?
No, Cheeto is in the game.
Cheeto is a part of the game.
We're talking about there's actual cheat codes you can do. You got to type in cheat, and then you got to type in some other random word, and then it disables your saving.
Okay,
and
those
your high
were
score.
Added later. Okay.
They were hidden in the game. They were like for the debuggers or the testers.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I used them, but
debug mode in the game.
It wasn't useful. I just tried them out.
Yeah, because I read one later that was like, it filled up your red and gold feathers all the way. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that was a normal code. You could do that. I mean, I just got enough notes so I could get the refill right before Gruntilda. I never would have beat this game.
That's what I did as well. Because this game does set you up really well for the last boss fight.
It does.
If you've almost completed it, if you have enough musical notes, which is how you unlock new areas, because every collectible, for the most part, except for the stupid items that are only collectible to be collected, they all serve a purpose in the game.
Yeah, they do.
So the music notes unlock new areas.
One can sort of argue how fair it is that your reward for getting all the stuff is that the final boss is made easier. And by the way, even when it's easier, it's still frustratingly difficult.
Yeah.
Like really
you don't
unfairly
necessarily
difficult.
have to do that. It's not because you open the door, but you don't have to then go get the item. The thing is another item behind the door, so you can just open it and not get it.
It makes a near impossible boss fight slightly less impossible.
It's true. That was a difficult boss
you
fight.
kind of need the handicap.
Yeah.
You
I
kind of need it.
Not having it. I really, because I didn't have it, and I beat her on one freaking honeycomb, one hit, and I was dead, and I barely
I did get the red honeycombs, which, by the way, for listeners, that doubles your health, which is a huge help.
Oh, yeah.
I also only beat her on 1 health.
I also only beat her on 1 health with a red honeycomb. I felt like such a champion too. I was like, yeah. It was like the most cinematic ending. Like one.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Left,
that boss is pure bullshit. Mostly because of those fireballs she throws at you, which are not telegraphed, which can come at you in irregular rhythms from behind you, off screen. Well. They move toward you very quickly in a straight line, and
they hold on to you a little bit.
And okay.
Well, hold on.
This would all be fine. And this would all be fine if it wasn't happening almost exclusively during sequences where you have to stand still so you can shoot eggs.
Yeah.
And
I stupidly thought, if I get behind the statues, I can have like a minute of respite. But no, when you're behind the statue, the fireballs just go straight through.
Yep. That was shitty. That to me was just that is
just unfair.
She has like her meteors.
That's just unfair.
Yeah.
That's just unfair. Bottom line, that's shitty design. That should not have been in the game.
What I thought was dumb was she has her meteorites, the red fireballs that she leads you and hits you with those. And those are just like hard to dodge. Yeah. But then she has the green attacks that are like a magic blast that actually they will hit you no matter what. You cannot dodge.
You're meant to use them. You're meant to use your wing shield.
Yeah, you have to know to use your invincibility.
Yep. I had a hard time with that ability. I didn't really know how to use it until that final fight. I had to learn how, or I would never have gotten anywhere.
Yeah, that also to me seems like very cheap design.
It's that ability very intimately because I used that to kill all the monsters in the damn holes in the wall that would jump out at you.
I just hit them with jump and attack.
Those you can literally just jump in front of the hole and then immediately do the midair attack. And
oh my god, really?
Yeah, that's all he did.
I collected so many gold feathers.
Nope. You can just jump in front of them and peck them and they die in 1 hit.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The only enemies you have to use the gold feather on are those stupid green ghosts in Mad Monster Mansion.
Yeah.
And the mummies, I think. The mummies.
Oh, you can kill the mummies like that?
Yeah, you can kill the mummies, the skeletons, and the those annoying like tendrils in the wall that like thrash back and forth. You can also kill those.
Yeah, I did that.
Those are you can also kill those with eggs. So I just used eggs for those guys.
I didn't know that.
I used eggs for everything. It was eggs and gold feathers was my entire game.
Well, here's the thing: if this were a Nintendo game, everything probably would work with eggs.
Probably
because like. If this were a Nintendo game, they probably would have designed the entire experience around just that one move, or they would have picked some other move to make like the central thing that you do. But this game is designed with a very different philosophy. This game is very much about collecting things in a way that Mario 64 just wasn't. In Mario 64, the stars were more of like a goalpost than a collectible, because you would go in and get each one at a time, and they all sort of existed as separate missions for which the geography of the stage would actually change. And it was all about taking one particular path through the level to get to the star, which it would point out to you at the beginning. Like it would tell you, okay, the star is here, go get it. Whereas in this game, it's a treasure hunt. It's a scavenger hunt. You have to look for these things.
Yeah, the game is trying to lead you into every crevice.
Yeah,
and I will give it credit for the musical notes usually do give you like a clue of where you should be heading.
Exactly. They're used very effectively. And by the way, the fact that that is a possible defense of the fact that they come back after you die or leave the level is because if you collected them and that was it, then they wouldn't be there anymore as that sort of breadcrumb trail.
I could see that as
which really does help.
I could see that as a defense.
Yeah, it's not a defense at all. Like, it's still inexcusable. Because
but I could hear somebody saying
it forces you to play every level in a way where you're incredibly afraid of taking any damage at all. So you have to play extremely conservatively until you get all the notes and Jinjos, and then you literally don't care. Like,
or enough honeycombs to play a little bit more.
I literally said this out loud multiple times during my playthrough, where I was like, oh, thank God I got every note. Okay, good. I no longer fear death.
Yeah.
Like,
as soon as I got every note, I left and came back because I was like, all right, I'll start over. Like, I've got every note. I don't want to risk anything.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so glad I played the 360 version.
Oh,
of
no,
this
if
game.
you
I'm so happy.
dude, if you get every note and you die, then you have every note.
Okay.
Don't lose them all.
I was just like, I viewed it as like a save where I was like, if I just leave and come back, I know it's there.
So it didn't save any notes if you didn't get all 100 then?
No, it was
it
whatever
did.
you got, what you got.
If you get like 50 and you die, then it's like, okay, your high score for notes in this level is 50, and now you have to start from 0 again.
Yeah.
Oh, so that is terrible.
It's fucking bullshit.
It's pretty rough.
I think it was a technical limitation, and you know,
I can't imagine being like, because somebody out there got 99 notes and died. Like they were just trying to run into a room and grab. Usually, there's not single notes usually, but there are monsters around notes all the time. And so I could see somebody running into a room and just trying to grab it and getting killed.
So many like little bullshit things. Like I got 97 notes in Click Clock Wood, and then I fell into that hole. I was in the winter version. And then I fell into that hole in the ice, and I was like, okay, well, I got to jump out of here. But every time I tried to jump out, like I was just positioned a little too close to the edge of the hole, so it would think, oh, no, you're too close to the edge of the hole. That means when you press A, you're actually going to dive underwater.
Oh, jeez.
And so I just kept happening until I drowned.
Oh, no.
So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm done.
The game's turned on you. Well, I will say, so we brought up Super Mario 64. I did read something about the development of this game where it was initially supposed to be was kind of based on...
This is actually a fascinating story, and if you look around on YouTube, you can actually find videos that have a list of songs that Grant Kirkhope composed for the original version of this game.
Yeah.
That some of which were reworked into new compositions for this game, and it's really fascinating.
Yeah.
So this game was originally an RPG called... The working title was Project Dream.
It was going to be an RPG inspired by Japanese RPGs and LucasArts adventure games. And it was going to be on the SNES.
It was going to be on the SNES, and you played as this like spiky-haired kid with a sword, and you were fighting this pirate named Captain Blackeye, who, by the way, there are Easter eggs with Captain Blackeye in this game. He shows up in a portrait, and I think Mad Monster Mansion. And he also shows up as an actual character in Banjo-Tooie.
Really?
As like another, as like a reference to the game this game was before it was Banjo Kazooie. And this
game was almost like a Secret of Monkey Islands.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to play that game.
Yeah.
I'm so sad that game was never made. But then the trade-off is if we got that game, we wouldn't have gotten Banjo Kazooie. Which I think maybe for you, Stuart, might have been a worthwhile trade-off. I don't know.
I'm okay
with it.
I'm okay with instead of Banjo Kazooie, we got like another like longest journey or something. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if that game had actually been made, it would have been totally unlike any other game that's come out for or since.
If the two top current games right now were like Knights of the Old Republic versus Banjo Kazooie the RPG, I'd be fine with that. I think that's my perfect future.
Rare, if you're out there listening to this, please go back and finish Project Dream.
They're not working on anything.
Please go back and make Project Dream. I want to play that.
Aside from Battletoads.
Why are we getting another Battletoads game? I don't understand.
I will buy an Xbox for Project Dream.
I'll buy it. I'll go find an SNES. Go re-release the SNES. Make it another $300 console. I'll get it and see what it's like. Because I was reading, and I was like, this sounds so interesting to me. This sounds like a game I would love.
They moved it to the N64, and then they started working on it there. And then a couple years in, they were like, this isn't working. Let's scrap it and make it a cartoon platformer with a bear and a bird who lives in his backpack.
They literally said, hey, that Super Mario 64 is a good game. Forget Project Dream. Let's just make that.
Pretty much.
I mean, you know what? But it's a testament to, I think, Chris Stamper, who led the development and made this call, that it turned out so well. This is a case of like the guy in charge knowing what the hell he's doing and the guys beneath him being like, I have no idea what the hell you're doing. You better know what the hell you're doing. And then like it comes out and it's great.
It's definitely rare for something to be completely rebuilt from the ground up and come out, pretty damn good. Like,
yeah.
I feel like the only other example I can think of off the top of my head is what?
Fingers crossed for Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of off the top of my head was like Halo. Like Halo was supposed to be, Resident Evil 2. Like,
I mean, that does happen sometimes.
Yeah. Like Halo was supposed to be an RTS, wasn't it? And then
it was originally.
And then they made a Halo
first-person shooter of all time, arguably.
Up
there.
I don't know about that, but okay.
Well,
Halo 2, yes. Halo 1,
I could talk to you for 2 hours about the mechanics behind Halo and why it was very impressive. Have you ever heard of acceleration magnetism, my friend?
Okay, Stu.
But arguably one of the most important, like, not even arguably, one of the most important games being retooled. And then, like, I feel like, video games are kind of the only place where that could happen. Like, with so many movies going through reshoots, and it just comes out, you're like, oh, man, they should not have reshot that, or how bad was this before? But then, like, Banjo-Kazooie gets completely remade, and you're like, wow, I would not even be able to, like, tell you what this was based off.
Yeah, it is crazy that this was a pirate RPG before this.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, they completely different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing like that.
Supposedly, there's a prototype version of Project Dream.
Oh yeah, it's out. Chris Stamper showed a couple years back. He actually showed some footage from it.
Okay, he should just release it.
Yeah.
What's somebody gonna do? Steal it and put it on SNES? Like, there's no.
It's probably like pre alpha.
Yeah. I mean, you can play Van Buren, which was the precursor to Fallout New Vegas. Like, you could play that game. That was supposed to be the first 3D Fallout. I just think it'd be really interesting to see like what exists in that.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I really want that as a full game.
Yeah, because it was a really interesting.
Because again, I've listened to the original version of the soundtrack, or like the tunes that Kirkhope composed for it, and the game that would have gone to that soundtrack feels to me like it would be my favorite game. Like,
it's funny. Like, I wonder what score Project Dream would have gotten, because Banjo-Kazooie got like 9s almost across the board.
Yeah, across the board. Well, yeah. And in reviews, I was looking at some reviews before this, and like almost across the board, everyone sort of considered this an improvement over Mario 64, which personally I also do, but we'll get to that later.
I don't.
And that game got like 10s.
Yeah.
So this is like a 10.5. It's crazy.
It's a good game. It's just harder than what we're used to nowadays.
It's
mean.
It is mean.
There are certain modernizations that didn't exist back then, and this game has aged. It has aged a lot, as a lot of games did from that era.
I'd like it to get the the Spyro Remastered treatment where they reignite treatment, where they just re-release it again. I mean, it's already been re-released, but
that'd be great. And if they just went in and like fixed all the shit, like the fireballs and the grunty fight, and they fixed, the camera controls for flying, which landing as the bee is just, it's like,
well, you can't land as the bee. You have to run into something.
Yeah,
it's
landing as the bee is like driving.
You didn't do the bee stuff?
No, not really. I just went and got the one jiggy.
Landing as the bee is like riding a unicycle drunk at night wearing sunglasses.
I think there's two jiggies you have to be the bee to get.
I skipped.
Yeah, you do.
I skipped stuff near the end because I had enough to get to 94, and I'm like,
but
you know what?
Dude, the bee jiggies are so easy. The bee jiggies are like the easiest jiggies in that entire.
I got both those.
Like the snapper plants.
Yeah.
If you're the bee, they don't snap.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that, but I didn't get all those notes. I had enough, and I was done with Click Clock Woods. And I
didn't get all the notes either. I was like, I have enough. I'm leaving.
Oh man, how about? Did you guys do what I did at first, where you went in the fall version of Click Clock Wood, and you went up to the squirrel's house, and he was like, "Hey, can you get my acorns?" And there's one that's literally out in the middle of a bottomless pit, and you're like, "I'm not gonna do this one."
Yeah, but then if you look down, it's just
you have to perfectly land on this little like plank sticking out.
I did that by accident. I was like, "Fuck it, I'm going for it," because
I just jumped across it and got it.
Well, you can't I
thought is what I did.
You can kind of cheat the jumping in this game as well, or the falling, I should say. Because the game has two like double jump type actions. One, you can do an attack, and that'll stop your jump in midair. You'll do like your peck. And then you can also do a double jump where it's like Kazooie will take over and fly for a bit. And so if you're close to the ground and you hit one of those buttons, you don't take any damage. And so I was like, well, screw it. I know how to cheat the fall damage in this game, so I'll just go for it.
Okay.
And I did not on the thing underneath it by mistake.
For whatever reason, I didn't put it together that you could also use the peck attack that way.
Yep.
So
peck attack actually works a little bit better for that.
Yeah. Because you already have to use your double jump to get out into the middle to get the nut.
Maybe I just fell and got it. I can't remember.
I just know that I did it by accident because I jumped for it, fully expecting to have to like fall and use my my peck or something. And I landed on the plank, and I was like, well, that was a lot less climactic.
By the way, the game does kind of expect you to know that or like figure that out and to do it because like a lot of the time it's the only way to get down from places.
Yeah, like the top of Click Clock Wood, because it's just a tree. You're just climbing a tree.
In any other game, if this were like a Ratchet and Clank game, there would be one of those little taxi cabs up at the top where you just jump out and it takes you down to the bottom. But in this one, you're just supposed to know, no, if you hit the A button when you're really close to the ground, you won't take any damage. And that's how you're expected to get down.
Doesn't have the Skyrim dungeon inn that always comes out right at the main entrance.
Yeah, I never played Skyrim.
Yeah,
what? Two people that never played Skyrim is?
No, I have played Skyrim.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I was like, screw it. We're gonna take a month and we're gonna all play Skyrim.
No, we are not doing that.
Yeah, because Skyrim, every dungeon in Skyrim ends with like you unlock a secret door and it takes you right back to the beginning of the dungeon. Everything's circular, which is a good design. But there are some dungeons in the game that don't have that, and when you come across those dungeons, you almost feel cheated. Where you're like, well, goddamn it, I have to walk. What is this? What is this crappy game that expects me to do my own will?
That's why you do what every JRPG does, and you just put in a spell that warps you to the entrance.
Like Golden Sun.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I used that retreat spell a lot.
Yep. But it's just a shame they could do it for the dungeons, but they couldn't do it in the fucking overworld.
It's true. Or Legend of Zelda. I always liked how Legend of Zelda did it when you beat the boss in like the little Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, like a little shiny platform would open up on the floor and that just takes you right back to the entrance.
Yeah, that's a really good way to do it. It's like, all right, here's a checkpoint, and all right, now you don't have to go through all that again. Yeah. Now you can just get back to here. Like, that's a very natural way to do it. It's like built into the dungeon. Yeah, I like that.
You actually have to do that. In Majora's Mask, it turns into like actual gameplay mechanic because you have to go back and beat the bosses again. And it's just a quick way to do that.
Right.
Yeah, this game definitely. I want to say it needed that because the way the levels were built, they were all very contained.
Yes, that's again that's a big triumph of this game is that it has levels that are very dense and complex, but also compact and easily navigable. Like you can always get back to the entrance from wherever you are, and it never takes that long.
Yeah, like at no point in this game was I angry because I didn't know where to go. It was more just like I know what I have to do, and I'm just not doing it. Like I can't figure out what I'm.
One of the hardest things with this game is that like when you have a timer, you have a 60 seconds, you literally have just enough time to get what you need to do and get done. It doesn't give you like, oh, here's an extra couple seconds.
It does not, baby.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, this game, that is actually something I like about this game, is that this game doesn't treat you like a kid.
It's kind of a weird disparity, though, because the humor is very immature.
Yeah, the humor is very immature. It's also sometimes very mature.
Yeah.
In ways that would go over most kids' heads.
Yeah. I mean, I have like 5 notes here about Gruntilda's sweaty underwear, so.
Yeah. And there's also like that thing at the end with after you beat the boss in the like victory cutscene where there's the leggy blonde carrying the
for
tray
no reason
with 2 watermelons on it.
Literally the only human being you've seen the entire game is a blonde.
It's a boob joke.
Yeah, it's a blonde wearing a red bikini carrying 2
watermelons.
How about a sunflower with boobs? You know, we can play a game with those.
A sunflower.
You know what referencing, don't you?
I do.
Bad for a day.
Yeah. That. Oh man. All right. Let's not.
That's what they led into after Banjo Kazooie. After a couple.
I'm gonna take a big mighty poo on that idea.
Excuse me.
Does that joke work?
The Great Mighty Poo.
The Great Mighty Poo. Sorry.
Great Mighty. Thank you, Stuart.
Oh, how could I have messed up that joke?
Yeah. Shameful.
I made it too funny. I was saying, like, I didn't hate the humor in this game.
I
hate the humor in Conquerors because it feels like force.
Well, Conquerors is actually a different creative team.
That's true.
It's a different guy in charge.
And I feel like it's people trying to recapture the humor of this game.
It's people who were like, the whole point of that game is, oh yeah, you know us, we're rare. You can always expect like they knew they were pigeonholed as the Banjo guys, so he was like, you know what? Fuck that. We're going M-rated.
Which they obviously kept up with Viva Pinata and Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like the humor in this game was very like immature, but I don't know. I never got like angry at it. I felt like
it didn't bother me either.
Really
no, it's actually kind of charming in a weird way.
I got like annoyed at Kazooie, and I hated Bottles. I wanted to kill Bottles.
Well, I mean, you're meant to be annoyed at Kazooie. She's annoying.
I like Kazooie.
She's a bitch.
Kazooie's just mean to everybody.
As the Brits would say, she's cheeky.
She's cheeky.
She's cheeky. It's a nicer way of saying it.
She's cheeky. Yeah, just like I hated like Kazooie. I was just kind of like annoyed by. I hated Bottles. I wanted Bottles to die.
Well, guess what?
Spoilers for Banjo-Tooie.
We never said spoilers. They're going to be in the description of this when I publish it. Doesn't matter.
It's the start of the game. It's not a spoiler.
Nobody's playing this game for the story. You play this game because you just want to play it and enjoy it. Nobody cares about Banjo trying to go save his sister from getting turned into a fat, ugly sister.
What's funny is I thought Kazooie was like annoying, and then I hated Bottles, and I found myself agreeing with Kazooie, where Kazooie is just like over the top mean to him, where she was just like, "You're awful, like you're worth nothing," and I was like, "Oh, Jesus, like this is so bad." And then Bottles would be like, "Oh, the beginning of the game, Bottles is like, I can't tell, is that your brother up in the air flying on a broomstick?" And I'm like, "Bottles, you ignorant slut."
No, he's not ignorant. He's just he's short-sighted.
Yeah, but
he has to wear those big glasses.
Okay, he's short-sighted, but he also has to be some level of idiotic to say, "Hey, is that Banjo flying through the air? You know, that bear that's never once flied ever?"
I mean, first of all, Stu, it's flew. It's past tense. It's flew. Thank you.
I'm doing the British terminology.
Number 2, it's implied through that whole dialogue exchange that he's never met Banjo, which again does not make a lot of sense actually. But
considering he lives right
right there.
Door.
Yeah.
And well, to be fair, Banjo's also never met the witch who lives on the other side of bottles.
Yeah, and that whole thing just does. It's just sort of hand waved at the beginning. You're like, this doesn't make sense. Whatever. I don't expect this to make sense. It's like, and you don't need it to. You don't need this game to make sense.
It's the beginning. It's if you cut out the beginning of Jak and Daxter, whereas a normal game would have a setup of. Like, this is the witch, this is your sister Tootie, this is Banjo, this is Kazooie. This
it just gets right to it. And it's like, all right, let's do this.
All of that.
By the way, that is something that changes in Banjo-Tooie. Banjo-Tooie is a lot heavier on plot.
I think I'd like that, because I found myself even wondering, like I was like, I get that this game is kind of a joke. Like, a lot of this game is just supposed to be humorous and nonsensical. But I was like, I kind of want to know why some things in this game are animals and some things are like sentient, like the toilet.
Well, I don't think you're going to get that level of explanation. It is a cartoon fairy tale world.
Yeah, but you don't need it much. Like Jak and Daxter explains everything of like the monsters exist because of the dark eco. That sets it up in like one line in Jak and Daxter.
See,
dark
I
eco
wouldn't.
exists, it corrupts
no,
things.
You know what? I disagree. I wouldn't want it explained in this setting. Like, the whole point of this is that it doesn't. On some level, it doesn't need to make sense.
It just doesn't make sense as I guess.
I mean,
because
it's
that's the whole vibe.
I'm asking for story from Banjo.
It's a cartoon. It's a cartoon. It doesn't need to make sense. This is like the same level. This is the same sort of setting as like an early 1930s Mickey Mouse cartoon, where like a fucking boat engine suddenly grows eyes in a mouth and starts going.
That's fair. Yeah, I should not be asking for story.
It's a cartoon. I didn't mind that. I mean, I didn't mind the fact that, like, the toilet had eyes. I mean, at least it wasn't a Mighty Pooh singing to me.
Well, and again, it's funny and it takes you by surprise, and it's one of these like Refuge and Audacity kind of things. Yeah. It's like, I can't believe the toilet talks, and then you're 5 seconds later you're like, of course the fucking toilet talks.
Or like when you get turned,
it's possible you turn into a pumpkin. Yeah, you turn into a pumpkin wearing shorts.
And then Mumbo's like, I could eat you. And I'm like, okay, time to go.
Did you get he turns you into a washing machine at some point, and he's like...
I never got that.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like a random thing, I guess.
Very occasionally, his spell will fail, and you'll turn into a washing machine.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, well, while you're here, can you wash my loincloth?
Yeah. By the way, and it's just like a joke. Like, a second later, he turns you into the actual thing. But then the washing machine comes back in Banjo-Tooie as an actual transformation.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, that you actually walk around and your move as the washing machine is you shoot pairs of underwear out your front.
I was like, there was a level of panic in my mind when I saw that washing machine where I was like, oh God, I haven't noticed anything that could be like washing machine related. I started thinking back to every level, and I was like, I'm gonna have to leave this world and go find the washing machine stuff.
Like, I can understand that fear because this game loves to make you go get things. Like, hey, go get something.
That's a weird thing. Is it wants you to complete the level before you leave it, but oftentimes you have to go into the level to get the transformation to get something outside the level.
Yeah. Well, I usually just did that on my way out.
Me too. Usually one thing, except for the pumpkin.
And there's one of those in every level. There's like the witch switch where you pound it and then a Jiggy appears in the lair.
Yeah.
That sometimes you have to, like in Click Clack Wood, you have to leave as the bee so you can fly up, like out of the entrance and then fly up and get the
Which
Jiggy.
I thought was interesting.
I never got that one. That's one
I skipped. That's like the easiest one to get. It's just time consuming.
You just have to be the bee. Like that's it.
Done at that point.
There's no challenge.
Some
of them are actually puzzles to get to.
Yeah,
which I really enjoy. Like there's one,
the cemetery one required pretty sizable level of like pre-planning where you had to knock a fence over, go get the pumpkin in the level, leave the level, go into this, go down like off this overworld. You had to go down a side path. Sneak into a building, get turned back into Banjo, hit a switch, get turned back into a pumpkin, go back through.
Yeah, that wasn't even to get a Jiggy. That was just to get to the next world. Like that's something you have to do.
Yeah, that was like a ridiculous level of.
That was that. I had to look up a guide for that
Planning.
because it was like, because I had never gotten past Mad Monster Mansion before playing this game. Like everything past that was new to me. And I was
That's
like, how, as a kid,
trial and error.
how the hell would I have guessed this?
Yeah, I was like, I can hit this fence down, so I can probably hit the fence. I remembered that
Because
fence in the overworld because I thought that was going to be the next thing I opened.
It looks like an invisible wall. It looks like it's the boundary. It
doesn't look like the fences you knock over. Yeah. Aside from like maybe being slightly
that's another
bigger
thing. Like even the fences, even like there are gates inside Mad Monster Mansion that you can knock down with your shoulder charge.
Yeah. And they have giant, or you can jump and punch them, which is how I did it.
Okay. But you can only knock them down from the side that the lock is on.
Yep.
Which is very unintuitive. And I looked at them and I saw these big ass locks on these gates. And I was like, I can't knock these down. I have to find a key.
Yeah.
I was like, where's this fucking key? There's no key.
Yeah, it would make more sense to be like...
Because I tried knocking one down. And I was like, well, I can't knock this down. Yeah. I have to find a key. It's because I was knocking it down from the wrong side. It's like, come on, man.
I found out how to do that from annoyance.
At least make it like a crack on the front. Yeah. Don't make it a keyhole.
Well, it should be boards. It should be wooden boards.
Yeah, it should be wooden boards.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, I can't reach the boards from this side, but I can from the other side.
Yeah.
I learned that out of annoyance because I found
a big red X on the front or something. Like they did that with
the game does previously.
Yeah, it does. It puts a big red X on the snowmen's hats because you have to take them out with your airborne torpedo move, which, by the way, don't even get me started on that shit.
That move was hard to use. And
that move is bullshit to use.
Well, I only found out you could knock the fences over because I was frustrated with the game and acting out because I did the time puzzle to get into the church, and to get to the church you have to go through a gate, and I was like, I ran all the way over there and I got stopped at the gate, and I was like 2 seconds left, and I was like, fuck, how do I get in here? And the door closed. Now I was like angrily just swinging around in the game, and I hit the gate and it knocked open. I was like, oh, like, is that how you're supposed to learn it? You just get angry and start hitting.
Yeah, everything? Yeah. There are some instances in this of just like really boneheaded game design where it's like, really, you guys didn't think of that? Like,
I didn't realize that on the mansion level either. You could knock in the windows.
Yeah, that took me a while too.
Yeah. It was all everything. Basically, half the stuff I learned in this game was by accidentally trying to hit something and missing.
Yeah, there is some stuff in here that's really unintuitive, which is a shame because, like, by the way, like those last couple of levels are the best levels in the game. Like, those are the ones, like, people who are really fans of this game, the levels they always talk about are Mad Monster Mansion, Rusty Bucket Bay, and Click Clock Wood. Like, those are the three most iconic levels of this game, and they're the last three levels.
So I hated Rusty Bucket Bay being my favorite. I guess that means I'm more of a Banjo Kazooie fan than you are.
Well, certainly more than Mike.
My favorite was probably Gobi's Desert. I really liked
Gobi's Desert was really cool.
To be fair, everything in Rusty Bucket Bay that wasn't those two fucking jiggies in the engine room, everything else about it is pretty good. Like,
I didn't have any trouble with those.
Like, that's actually really good, first of all, concept for a level.
Yeah,
it's a really
I'll give you that.
Fun concept for a level.
I didn't like the water.
And it's wonderful. It's a really good contrast from the
water
rest.
Was a little rough.
Yeah, but it's a really good contrast from the rest of the game because if you think about it, every other level in this game has like a variety of NPCs you can talk to, like who you take missions from, who are like these really fun, like charming, weird, goofy characters that you can like have conversations with, and it sort of makes all these levels feel alive, and it sort of really drives forward that wonderful cartoony fairy tale sort of vibe that the whole game has. And in Rusty Bucket Bay, the only character you can talk to is a dolphin that's trapped underneath the ship's anchor.
Yeah,
and is
like literally suffocating.
Dying.
Yeah, it's dying. And with its last breath is calling out to you for help. And that is the one thing you talk to in Rusty Bucket Bay.
And as soon as you free it, it disappears. It's like, thank you, goodbye.
I'm getting out of this horrible place. It's like, yeah, you know what? I don't blame you.
It just books it as far away as it can.
Yep.
And the asshole leaves the jigsaw piece underwater for you as well.
On the floor.
Great.
You have to go get it.
What a nice guy.
Like when they give you the jiggy pieces a lot of times, they're like, oh, here's this junk I got. I don't need. Here you go.
Yeah.
Stupid thing. I gotta go. Like nobody cares.
They don't know.
Literally, when you're on the Freezy Peak, Freeze Easy Peak.
By the way, probably the best, if not the best, one of my favorite tracks in the game.
Yeah, that was a good track because it was just a Christmas song.
I mean, well, here's the thing. If you look there, you can find previous versions of this song that Grant Kirkhope wrote that got shot down. And they sounded much more like typical ice level
Christmas music. Oh, okay.
Like they sounded like, like the very sort of jingle belly.
Yeah.
Or that
same music that every ice level in every video game.
Yeah, exactly. But the actual final track is so not that. It has these this big triumphant horn section. It sounds like the good part of every Christmas. Well, it sounds like the exciting part of every Christmas movie. It sounds like the actually exciting part.
Oh man, who's the ball? Seth Everman. Seth Everman does the great. He has a bunch of great videos of video game music that he plays on his keyboard, and it's generic fire level, generic ice level.
Yep, that guy's great. You should all check him out.
He's we're not sponsored by him or anything, but he's just really awesome.
He's really awesome and funny.
Yeah.
Spoiler: we're not sponsored by anybody yet.
We're not sponsored by anybody this episode, but go check out Seth Everman, unrelated.
Yep. Hey, but Everman, if you want to kick us $50, we're not going to say it.
If you want to give us more intro music, I mean, I like Bulby, but
we're always we're open to offers.
Look, we're not loyal, okay?
I did enjoy the music.
Don't listen to him, Bulby. We only have ice cream.
I usually don't listen to music in the game, but I really enjoyed the music and the sound effects in this game. It all just was fun to me, and that's not usual. I actually had everything playing. I'm listening. I'm sitting there every time I got a jiggy. I'm sitting there tapping my leg with the stupid, little sound.
Yeah. The soundtrack in this game is insanely catchy.
Yeah,
Plus, it really is a large part of why this game is so memorable.
It's also, like you said, it's very important. There were several times I had to pause. Because I did the same thing. I had something playing on my phone. I had to pause it because I was like, I need to listen to hear if I'm getting if I'm doing this right. Because you'll get the little the bling noise of, oh yeah, what you're doing is right. Keep doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, the sound. I will say that the sound design in this game is absolutely solid. Yeah. Every single collectible has its own sound effect. Every character has its own distinct. We haven't even talked about this. The little voice clips. How every that's again such an iconic part of this. Yeah. Well, let's save the impressions for later. Just a little bit later.
Banjo sounds like if
Oh, he's goofy. He's just goofy.
I was gonna say he sounds like if Rocky had 5 strokes.
He's like if Rocky and Goofy had a baby.
Yeah, who you said the guy who did the music though was Grant Kirkhope?
Grant Kirkhope.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look to see what else he did because I really enjoyed the music.
He did a whole bunch of rare games. He actually did Viva Pinata.
Okay.
And some of the stuff he originally wrote for Project Dream actually got recycled into that game too. He's done a bunch. He did I think he did do Perfect Dark. He did do 007 GoldenEye, which we are going to be playing.
I don't know if I like the music in 007 GoldenEye, but it's just Bond music.
So. I mean, that's what else would you have expected from a licensed James Bond game?
Although I also love Rush by the Seatbelts for Cowboy Bebop, and that is literally just the Bond theme as well. So
it's a good song. Are you talking about the intro?
No, the intro is Tank, which is great.
Yeah,
the Tank has elements of it as well.
Tank with an exclamation point.
Yeah, Tank. Tank, and I think Rush as well, which is the second song on. Anyway, as a second song, another song by the Seatbelts and Yoko Ono for Cowboy Bebop has a lot of James Bond themes in it as well. Not going to get into when it shows up in the series. It's in the first episode, but
all right, we should probably wrap up at this point.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Any last thoughts about Banjo-Kazooie you guys want to say? I think we touched base on pretty much all the worlds.
Yeah.
Is there any word we haven't talked about?
I mean, we touched on all the ones that are remarkable. I think we've skipped over
we didn't talk much about Gobi's Desert, probably.
We didn't. We didn't talk a lot about Gobi's Valley. We didn't talk a lot about the swamp, which is pretty unremarkable. Like we talked about all the stuff that people remember from this game. We've kind of talked about. So
yeah, we talked about the terrible final fight that no one should have to do.
No one should ever have to do ever. It's bullshit.
Oh, one thing we didn't get
technically it is after the credits of the game, so you have beat the game at that point.
But that end that end cutscene after you beat her is the most satisfying thing.
I didn't watch it.
On the beach.
I beat the game.
Well, it's not just that. It's like you knock her off of the tower, and it's built up to like the Ginginator like slams in her like 3 times.
That was cool.
And she finally gets knocked off in like slow motion, and she fucking falls right in the ground next to the tower, like.
But it doesn't die.
Hans Gruber style, and then makes like a grunty shaped hole in the ground, and then a giant boulder falls on top of her. Like it's just so satisfying to watch.
I didn't see that.
Because she
beat it.
She has been taunting you this whole game, this entire game. You were fucking fighting her on top of a building shaped like her face.
Well, not even that, but just during the game, she like she'll randomly interrupt what you're doing. Like a little let's go to the bottom.
Yeah.
The stupid like rhyming like hey screw you.
And it really makes you hate her. And so like at the end, finally getting rid of her, like this is sort of part of the reason that people prefer this over Mario 64, because there is just so much more attention paid to that kind of character build-up and payoff.
Well, I found it interesting that, so before you beat her, you do the furnace, which is like the trivia game site. It basically turns into Mario Party, a single-person Mario Party. And when you beat that, she just gives you Tootie. She just gives you your sister back. And it's like, all right, I'm going over here now. And it's like, at that point, I was like, well, yeah, is the game just over? Like, did I just win? The only thing I set out to accomplish was to get my sister back from the Switch, and I did. So, bye.
Well, it's a fake out ending. That's
true.
It's kind of like what they did in Donkey Kong Country, where you quote unquote beat King K. Rool and the credits roll, but he's actually just playing dead.
Yeah.
That fight in Donkey Kong Country is freaking terrible. That final fight. Oh god.
Okay.
Yeah, Rare. Here's one thing I'll say about Rare: not super great with final bosses.
So we'll leave it at this then. My requirements, my prerequisites for playing Conker's Bad Fur Day are we have to play Jak 2 and Donkey Kong Country.
Absolutely not.
And if we play both those games,
absolutely not. We should have an official list of games we're never going to touch.
The blacklist.
Only ever happening. I'm going to say it on here. If eventually as we keep doing this, we eventually have a Patreon someday. That's the only way we're ever playing Conker. Otherwise, we are never touching that game.
Yeah, I did literally say in one of the messages you'd have to pay me.
Yeah, that's the only way it's ever happening.
If somebody comes up to me directly,
dear listeners, pay us, and we will play Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Jak 2, apparently.
I'll be
no. You'll have to pay me $1 million.
All right. So I'll be going to GalaxyCon in Richmond in May. So if anyone listening can fly out to Richmond and hand me $100, I'll play Conker's Bad Fur Day. More than $100. That has to be enough for like a Switch at least.
Hey man, you don't have to lowball it. Here, $10,000, guys.
$10,000.
The price is $10,000.
You have to hand me $10,000 cash, and I will play Conker's Bad Fur Day.
All right, let's wrap this up.
All right, and I do got before we do our listener before we do Shelf for Box, I do got a couple listener questions.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's see. This one's from an Amanda. Banjo Kazooie is a super memorable soundtrack. What level music stands out to you?
Gobies.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was one of the more sort of basic kind of melodies.
No, it was basic, but it had that like desert level. I like desert level music.
All right, fair.
Because desert level music and like wind level music, they're always a little bit more. I don't know what it is about them. They've got like a little bit more like high pitch like melodies in them. And they're a little different. I like desert level music. I like wind level music a lot. Okay. So Gobi stood out to me.
I sort of said this before, but I really like Freeze Easy Peak. It totally commits to the Christmas theme, in a way that you would necessarily expect, and it just sounds awesome.
Kind of sounds like you're in a department store around the holidays.
It's the tune that would be playing at the part in a Christmas movie where you're flying with Santa in his sleigh.
Nobody else lives near Busch Gardens, but Busch Gardens does Christmas, like a Christmas town every year, where they basically take this whole theme park and they transform it into a Christmas themed theme park, and that it's basically the same music they would play there.
It's like
Blue Stinger's Christmas music, where it's not Christmas music, but it's upbeat and it has that like the same notes and the same chords in it.
It sounds weird to call it epic, but it's the Christmas version of epic. It's whatever the Christmas version of epic is. It's great. I will also say I really love the Grunty's Lair theme.
Okay.
Because this is one of the really unique things about the soundtrack is the sound font changes based on where in the lair you are. If you're near a level, the instrumentation suddenly changes to match with the theme of that level.
That's cool.
Or like anytime you dive into a body of water, all of a sudden it's an arrangement of the music that's only on like xylophone. So it almost sounds like the music is muffled because you're underwater. Like it's
this game really did have dynamic music in it.
It had dynamic music.
Yeah.
No, it didn't
Not even
technically have
technically,
dynamic
it just had
music. It had dynamic music. It was really kind of ahead of its time a little bit.
Yeah, because every time you come across, I mean, when you're swimming as well, like if Snacker, one of the other sharks, there's Snacker and like I think Nipper is another one.
I think they're both named Nipper is the hermit crab.
Oh, he's the hermit crab. Yeah. I don't know what's Snipper.
Snacker is the shark.
Anyway, the sharks. When you're in the water and like you might not see a shark, but you'll know a shark is behind you coming at you because the music suddenly changes to like almost a Jaws type theme.
It is definitely a Jaws type theme.
Yeah, it's got that like da da
da da da da da da da.
Yeah. I really like the Treasure Trove Cove. That one I enjoyed. And
that's really good. Very like
that's another one of the themes. That's another one of the themes that he had to take like multiple stabs at.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go in and like listen to how the music changed.
It's a good soundtrack.
Yeah. Mumbo Mountain's original theme, I'm actually kind of mad isn't in the game because I actually like it way more.
I think I've mentioned this before. My two biggest things are like whether or not I think a game is good is if there's multiple ways to play it, which this game definitely has because I played it wrong apparently half the time.
Yeah, you played it differently than us.
And if the music really stands out to me, it makes me want to like look into it. And I'd say this game definitely had both of those.
Yeah, excellent soundtrack in this game.
I have two more questions for us. One, we kind of touched on earlier, but I want to ask anyway. We had from a Spencer. Favorite rare voices? Also do rare voice impressions.
Captain Blubber is notable just because his voice is just burps.
Yeah,
which is fun.
I hated Tootie.
Okay, yeah,
because hers is just like you can tell it's an adult male like doing a random voice and then synthesizing it.
I think most of the voices in this game are Chris Sutherland, who was the lead programmer.
But it's just like the pitch is turned up so high on it.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah, I think he was Banjo and he was Kazooie. He might have been Grunty. Like it was literally just guys around the office who were doing these voice clips.
I wish I could do it, but Wazza the Walrus had a pretty great voice. Yeah.
Yeah. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty close.
All right.
Pretty close.
Last question isn't really a banjo, but we'll use it. The guy said, what is the first game you bought yourself as a kid or teenager with your first job?
Oh, geez.
Anyone remembers? I'm trying to think if I can even remember my first game. I mean, I want to say one that I do remember early on is Sonic Adventure 2 Battle for GameCube. Man, I love that game.
I don't remember
as bad as that game. Oh, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle.
Adventure 2 Battle. Whoa, we should play that.
That's a great freaking game. Even though I know it's not a great game, I love that game.
Okay, I will tell you the Chow Garden is great.
Oh man,
the Chow Garden is great.
That whole game is great. I don't know what you're talking about. I know I'm wrong. Like I know 100% I'm wrong, but that game. I remember I spent the whole summer.
Listen, for what it's worth, 10-year-old me would 100% agree with you.
I would have a pretty interesting answer to this question, actually.
Sure.
So this is when I was like really. I don't know if it counts for me like earning money because I think this was just like me getting my allowance as a kid.
I still count.
But I earned allowance as a kid and I saved up and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get the N64. I'm gonna get the N64. Now this was in 2000. So the N64 had been out. The price wasn't quite the same. It was reasonable for me to save up to get the N64. And we got it. We brought it back to the house. It was like my Christmas gift. I was like, my parents took me to EB Games at the time to get my N64. And I was like, yes, this is awesome. I finally got my N64. Can't wait to play it. I've had to play it at a friend's house. And he was the kind of kid that would like get a game and no one was allowed to touch it for a week until he got good at it. Because he was a total prick. I say a friend. I hated his guts. But
I take you don't talk to him anymore.
No. It was really more my babysitter's real son. But yeah, so I was like, I saved up for this N64, brought it back to the house, plugged it in, didn't work. I was like, oh man, I don't know what's wrong. I've tried plugging it in, I unplugged it, plugged it back in, like took everything, took all the wires out. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I'll try it again. My parents, my dad was like also trying to figure it out, and I could tell it was trouble because I wasn't getting it and he wasn't getting it. And I was so upset. I had saved all this money up for this Nintendo 64. And I was like, yes, I finally have my own console. I can finally play at my house instead of going over to friends' houses. And it wouldn't work. So we're like, we're going to have to take it back. I was like, my dad was like, don't worry. We'll take it back. We'll get it replaced. Like, you paid for the N64. You're still going to get it. It's like, oh, okay. Basically on the verge of tears as a kid. And we took it back. And the guy at EB Games was like, oh, you were just in here. What's wrong? And he's like, oh, we took the N64 home, and he tried plugging it in. It didn't work. And I was like, oh, maybe he's doing something wrong. So I plugged it in. It didn't work. And the guy was like, really? And so he plugged it at the store, and it didn't work at the store either. He was like, I am so sorry. I tell you what, I think I paid $100 for it. He was like, tell you what, you spent $100 on this console. I don't want to just replace it for you because you've been through so much trouble. I'm going to sell you for the same price. I'm going to give you the console that just came out. So I got the PlayStation 2 in 2000 as soon as it hit shelves for $100.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's a good deal.
It was a really good deal.
It's a good story too.
Yeah. I went from being like the most upset kid in the world to just feeling so fucking happy. I was like,
top of the world.
I told all my friends I was getting a Nintendo 64, and I showed back up the next day to school, and they were like, how's the Nintendo 64? Finally playing it. I was like, guess what, motherfuckers? I've got a PlayStation 2. Suck it.
That's pretty cool, though.
I felt
awesome.
So happy. I don't even remember what launch game I got. I was just so happy to have a PlayStation 2. I think it was like Armored Core.
Who cares?
I was like, I didn't even care about the game. I was just holding. I was like holding the PlayStation 2 over everyone's heads. Like, yes, suck it.
That's a good story. All right, should we do a shelf or box?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's go for it.
I want to go first, DJ, since this is your pick.
Yeah. I think you guys probably know what I'm gonna say. I'm putting this on my shelf. It's the classic 3D collectathon platformer. It's just the shining example of the genre. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff wrong with it. Yeah, the camera controls could be a lot better. Yeah, the flying controls could be a lot better. There's a ton of stuff about this game that has not aged particularly well. But the stuff at its core that it does really well still comes across even today. It's still just an immensely fun, charming world that feels like it's alive, even though it absolutely does not run on any kind of logic at all.
No.
And it's just a very satisfying game to play. It's built up incredibly well. It feels so good to finally beat. It feels iconic. The soundtrack is fantastic. Like, it just sticks in your memory. It's just, there's a reason people prefer this over Mario 64. Like, Mario 64 on a fundamental gameplay level, probably a lot more solid. But in terms of just making the setting like sing and really making a world that's genuinely fun to explore and that's designed to be explored and really hunted through, like, this game just beats it in every regard. Yeah, it's great. If you're willing to put up with a few frustrating sections, and you can get this on the Xbox, so you can get like the HD graphics and the good camera controls, go for it.
And the fact that it doesn't delete your collectibles.
Yeah, that's really because then you have an actual shot at completion. Like then you have a genuine shot at completion.
Stuart, you want to go next?
Sure. I did a lot of 180s on this game while playing it. Like I went into it and I was like, I really like this. Like it's kind of odd beginning, but I like the soundtrack. It doesn't play too terribly for, a platformer from the late 90s, from 1998. And I was like, it just started getting like kind of frustrating. And I don't love this humor. It was like kind of funny at times, kind of annoyed me other times. It just kept going back and forth on it. So I'm going to say, because I played the Nintendo 64 version, I'm going to say box for now. But I think I'm going to be getting the Rare Replay. I'll get Rare Replay and I'll play the 360 version of it, and that's going to be it's going to be dependent on that. I'm going to say box for now, but I'm going to replay it on the 360 and see if it's more enjoyable. If it just plays a little bit better, I think that might be enough for me to put it on my shelf.
I think it plays a little bit better from the sound of it. You guys are saying, it's a little better. Yeah,
it sounds like they fixed a lot of the problems, and so that'll be like it's a dependent. It's in the box dependently.
All right, I'll give Stefan's real quick. I know he didn't finish it. He got to Gobi's Valley. He never got past that.
Do not blame him.
I love Gobi's Valley, but he said, I'd say this one is going in the box. While a fun game for bringing back my N64 memories and love, it has not aged well at all. Still worth a play if you're in the mood for an N64 platformer. And I'm going to say the same thing. I would put it in the box. Much as I enjoyed it, I never want to see this game again. I never want to fight Gruntilda again. But I had fun. Like I don't like platformers. I said on the show before, they're not really my thing. I mean, I did enjoy this game. I had fun with it, but there were a couple of parts when I found out you had to get 94 of the 100 to beat the game, I was like, what? I was not excited by that fact. So box for me. Good game, and I say you should play it, but I don't plan to go back to it again.
You guys are weak.
Hey, I said I'm gonna go back to it at some point and see. It'll be some time though.
Play the Xbox version. Like you're saying, it definitely probably from the sound of it.
Yeah, play the Xbox version. Do not do what I did. Do not buy an N64 for this game.
Yeah. I don't want to say. Yeah, I don't want to say that because the game does have problems. I don't want to say that those disqualify for me because I think KOTOR 2 is probably like top 3 favorite games of all time for me. I love Knights of the Old Republic 2, and that's an unfinished game. That's a game that has a lot of issues. So
I've never played it.
It's pretty good. I think it's better than the first one. I think it's better than a lot of games story wise.
I wouldn't mind, but I've never got around to it. It's always like this game was always on my list to play too, and I was glad when he picked it because I can finally cross that off my list.
Let's say like the problems don't disqualify for me. If I played like a slightly better version though, I think that'll be enough to push me over the edge.
It's way better from the sound of it. When you
guys, this is the first game I haven't put on my shelf, so I'm kind of part of it might be me just being like refusing to admit I don't love it. I'm usually very forgiving with games, but I don't know. It was Fallout. Well, Fallout's important.
Fallout was a piece of shit. I hated that game so much.
Hey, the birth of a nation is an important film.
This is true.
You should never watch it.
It's accurate.
This wasn't my worst game. Gruntilda made me angry. Nothing was worse than making us suffer through Fallout so far on this list. Nothing.
We're gonna have to go back to Fallout at some point. We're like, in some way, that's gonna have to be like the white whale of the series. I will make you people like Fallout.
I like Fallout. It has a 3 in front of it, and I like that version of it.
We'll play Fallout.
A man I saw on the internet said that one is bad.
Oh yeah.
It's not. It's not at all. I'm sure I'm not going to like it like I did 10 years ago. I'm sure a 31-year-old Mike's going to think a lot different than 21-year-old Mike thought, but we'll see what happens.
I don't know. I used to think Fallout New Vegas was better story-wise. I went back and played both of them. I think Fallout 3 is just a better made game in every way now. Having played all that series recently, I was like, Fallout 3 is just so much better built than any of the other games.
I'm looking forward to trying it. Stuart, since Stefan's not here, do you want to let everyone know what we're playing next week?
Oh yeah, I almost forgot. How could I forget?
I thought you knew.
Next week, watch me get it wrong. Now we're gonna have to bleep it. Next week, we are playing the original Resident Evil 2.
More horror games. Hooray.
Hey, I'm playing the 64 version, I think. But
It's been a while since I played Resident Evil 2. I played Resident Evil 1 not too long ago, so I'm hoping.
I am terrified to go back and play this game. I've never beat it. Never played it as a kid. I'm not terrified because the game. I'm terrified because I don't like when my saves are limited. That just no.
Oh yeah,
that's gonna be rough.
That's some bullshit.
That's why the 64 version might get played because I won't have a saving issue then. All right, we should probably start wrapping up. This one went a little longer than I was expecting.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank everyone for listening. You can find us. I have on our Facebook page. I'm constantly posting on there every day, different screenshots. So please like us. We already got 52 likes, so I need more. So please, you can find us in the I Watch the Entire Overblood Super Replay, which we do ask all the listener questions usually in that group every week for this show. You can find us on Twitter. We are on most podcasting platforms. We're not on something that you listen to or friends like, hey, I want to listen to us. Please let me know on Twitter, probably Facebook. I live on Facebook. I will get back to you, and I will make it happen.
We will track them down and shove a flash drive with our podcast up their nose.
We're supposed to be at iHeartRadio. One of these days, I'm going to get an email from iHeart saying, you're approved. It only takes 14 business days.
We've essentially made it so that there's no excuse not to listen to us. I couldn't find your podcast. Really? It's everywhere.
It's getting there. It really is getting there.
So basically, if you know somebody that hasn't heard us, break them into listening to us.
Mm-hmm.
All right, DJ, if you want to say, I know most of this by heart almost, but do you want to say where we got our awesome intro and outro from?
Yes. Thanks to Mike Stoney, a.k.a. Bulby, for supplying our intro song, The Cool Kids Squad, off of his EP, Bite the Bullet. You can find Stoney on his SoundCloud as well as on YouTube, his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Bulby, Bulby. He's got a ton of great stuff on there. Very recently, he did an 8-bit version of the mini-boss theme from Yoshi's Island, which is excellent. I recommend you all go out and listen to it. So, yeah.
All right. Anything else you guys want to plug? Stuart?
Nope.
All right. We want to thank everyone for listening. You guys have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye!
Go listen to Seth Everman. I'm changing inflection. I forgot that I don't even do that in the game.